Okay, January 23rd, 2012, we're going to take up what was our Chapter 2-3 test. So from your textbook, this encompassed Chapter 2 and 3. All of the formulas you needed to know for this chapter are written over here. Okay? Now, what we're going to need to do here is we're going to go through some of the questions from your test. I'm actually going to make up a question quickly so that you guys recall point slope, because I think a few of you don't quite remember it. Let's say that the question is asking us to put something in slope Y-intercept form. So convert to slope Y-intercept form. Okay, so what form are they talking about?
Y equals X plus B?
Yes, y equals mx plus b. So they want us to put it in this form here. Now, the only information they've given us, so let's say we have a point, and they've given us some point on the line. Let's say that point is 3 and 5, okay? And then they've asked us to, actually they've given us the slope of this line also. So slope of this line is 2 over 5. Okay? So they've given us the m, and they've given us a point on the line. Now we know that we can go about this the longer way, okay? And it'll still work fine if we just plug in this value for our m, and then we decide to plug this in for the x, this in for the y, solve for b, and then we'll have our form. Another way we could go about solving that is putting this into point slope form, which means we have a point, which is our point 1, 3, 5, and we have a slope. Okay? So we have this form here, and we could plug it in for either x2 and y2, or we could plug it in for x1 and y1. Either of them work. What we'll do is we'll plug it in for x1 and y1 since it's the only point. We'll call these points x1 and y1. Okay? So we're going to replace the x1 and y1 in this equation with our numbers 3 and 5. We're also going to replace the m in the equation with 2 over 5. So we end up with just x. We no longer need the subscript because it's the only x in the question. Subtract 3 times 2 over 5 is equal to y subtract 5. Okay? Now to get to our y equals mx plus b form, we're going to need to distribute, and we're going to need to set this equation equal to y. So I'm going to use my distributive property and multiply this fraction into here. Okay? I'm going to quickly do this. X times 2 over 5 is 2 over 5 times x. Negative 3 times 2 over 5. Anyone know off the top of their head? Negative 6 over 5. Okay? I'll quickly explain that. This is multiplying fractions. If we make negative 3 fractions, it's 3 over 1. And we multiply top by the top, bottom by the bottom. Negative 3 times 2 is our negative 6. 5 times 1 is 5. Okay? So we have our number there. Is equal to, and I can drop these brackets, y minus 5. Okay. Now I'm actually almost already equal to y. I'm going to bring that 5 to the other side of the equation. 2 over 5x minus 6 over 5 plus 5. Now this part gets a little trickier. If it wasn't a fraction, it would have been very simple to work with. What this is 1 and 1/5 plus 5. So negative 1 and 1/5 plus 5, which is 4/5, 3 and 4/5. 3 and 4/5 as a mixed fraction is 19 over 5. So 19 over 5 is equal to y. This is our mx plus b form. Now if it wasn't a fraction, it is actually very simple to do. I know the adding and subtracting fractions can be a bit difficult, but that's a way you could use your point slope form. I want you guys to also recognize point slope form is slope of a line All they've done is move the bottom x2 minus y2 to the other side of the equation. And now it's being multiplied by our slope. They replace slope with the letter m. Okay? All that is an equation rearranged. Okay, question number 4 from your test. It says that triangle DEF has vertices D at -2, 4, E at 0, -2, and F at 6 and 2. Determine the equation of DG. Okay, there is no G in this triangle, so what they're telling you is this is the median from F to DE. That will be the median between D and E. First thing we're going to need to do is plot this. Can you guys all see that graph? Okay, so we have a larger graph now. We're going to plot our points. D is at -2 and 4. So here's point D. Point E is at 0, -2. There's point E. And F is at 6 and 2. There is our F, okay? So our triangle looks like this. Now the triangle is asking us to determine the equation of DG. Oh, I think that was a mistake written in. It wasn't. It's supposed to be FG, isn't it? Yeah, I think we addressed that on the test. It's supposed to be FG, the median from F to DE. So in other words, we're looking for some line that comes from F to the middle of the other part of the triangle. So we need to find that equation of this specific line here. We're going to call this point G. Okay? So the very first thing I need to do here is what? Find the midpoint of D and E. Okay, so we need to find the midpoint of D and E. I'm going to scroll down here. We have our midpoint formula. Remember, D was at -2 and 4, and E was at 0 and -2. We're going to use our midpoint formula, this formula here. Okay. XM and YM stand for the midpoints, so that will be the point we're looking for. We're going to call D equation 1 and E equation 2. So this becomes x1 and y1, x2 and y2. Okay. So to find this midpoint of xm and ym is equal to, I guess we'll do the rest in black here. x2 is 0 plus x1, which is -2, divided by 2. Now this is a comma. We're not combining these two formulas. These are actually two separate formulas, each of them solving for the corresponding point. So this solves for the x point of the midpoint. This solves for the y point of the midpoint. We do not combine these. y2 is -2, and y1 is 4, divided by 2. We're going to get -2 divided by 2 over 2 divided by 2, which is -1 and 1. Okay? So G, we've now discovered, and that looks pretty much where we drew it, -1 and 1. So I have that point. Point F, which was important, was at 6 and 2. Okay? So we have those 2 points now. Yes. So now we have to find the equation of this line. We have 2 points, so we can find the slope. And then from there, we're going to put it in our slope Y-intercept form. So we take the 2 points that we have. G was at -1 and 1, and F was at 6 and 2. Again, we'll call this our first point and our second point. So this is x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay? And we need to find the slope of that line. So we take our slope formula. That's why we have so many formulas on the side here. We've got to remember them all. So slope, which is also m, so I'm going to replace it with m, is equal to y2 is 2, subtract y1, which is 1, divided by x2, which is 6, subtract x1, which is -1. Okay? is going to give us a slope of 1 over that 6 plus 1, which is 7. Okay. So the slope of this line is 1 over 7. Now I have the slope and I have 2 points. We could use point slope, but I've actually just shown you how to do that. So instead I'm going to put it into slope y-intercept form and then solve for b. Just so you guys have a variety of ways to solve things. Okay. So what this means is we're going to replace our m with 1 over 7. And I'm going to replace, let's say we're going to take point G. Okay, we could take either point for our x and y value in this, because we know they both lie on that line. I'm going to take G because probably going to be nice working with ones there. Okay, that was my logic to it. So we're going to place x and y with those two numbers. So what we get is y, which is the value of what? 1. Which is equal to 1 over 7 multiplied by so we replace m with 1 over 7. We replace x with 1. And our b is what we're going to try to solve for here. So we have 1 is equal to 1 over 7 plus b. When I move 1 over 7 to the other side, I get 1 subtract a 7th. Sorry, 1 subtract a 7th. Did I put that?
No, like the y.
Oh, sorry, it was negative 1. So that becomes negative, this becomes positive. And then when we add them together, b is equal to 8 over 7. So our final formula here, y was equal to a 7th x plus 8 over 7. That was our final answer for that question. Question number 5 from your test. For a line segment CD, the endpoint C is at negative 3 and 7, and the midpoint is 1, 4. Find the coordinates of endpoint D. So we're going to be using our midpoint formula. So we have point C, which is at negative 3 and 7. Excuse me. And we have the midpoint, we'll call it M, is at 1 and 4. Our midpoint formula is down here. Okay. The midpoint is actually this coordinate here, so I'm going to replace xm and ym with the numbers 1 and 4. So we have 1 and 4 is equal to, then we're going to take our formula. Since this is the only point we'll have, we'll call it x1 and y1. So we'll have x plus negative 3 divided by 2 and y plus 7, divided by 2. Okay. Now what this means, is we're going to highlight it, is this formula here is equal to 1. And this formula here is equal to the number 4. So I'm actually going to split this into 2 separate formulas. I'm going to have 1 is equal to x, and we're going to change that to just subtract 3 divided by 2. And the other formula is 4 is equal to y plus 7 divided by 2. So I now have 2 formulas where I can isolate a variable to solve for our other coordinate. When I bring 2 to the other side of the equation, it's multiplied. So 2 times 1 is equal to x minus 3. And we have 2 times 4 is equal to y plus 7. We'll get 2 is equal to x minus 3. 8 is equal to y plus 7. When I bring 3 to the other side, 2 plus 3 equals x. And when I bring 7, 8 subtract 7 equals y. Our other coordinate, the x value is 5 and the y value is 1. So point D's coordinate is 5 and 1.